Live and Let Die is the 8th film in the James Bond film series, and it's the first one to star Roger Moore as Bond. The film was directed by Guy Hamilton and was produced by Albert Broccoli. It was released in 1973 and earned a staggering $161 million at the box office. The film departs from the conventional Bond plots, which usually entail villainous schemes to disrupt world power structures, and instead places its emphasis on drug trafficking. The movie ends up deviating even more from most Bond films in the fact that it takes place in highly African-American cultural centers like Harlem, New Orleans, and the Caribbean islands. Live and Let Die marked several milestones for Bond films. It was the first time a fictional country would be used as a setting. This would also happen again in License to Kill. And it's the only occasion that 007 commits what amounts to be a political assassination, since the bad guy, Kananga, is the leader of the nation. It's also the first of the Bond films that Q was absent, though he is mentioned by Miss Moneypenny. This is the first of the Bond films where 007 becomes romantically involved with an African-American girl, Rosie Carver, played by Gloria Hendry. The basic premise of the film is that 3 British agents monitoring the operations of the evil Dr. Kananga and his small Caribbean island called San Monique are murdered in mysterious circumstances within the space of about 24 hours. M sends James Bond to New York, and as soon as Bond arrives there, his driver is killed while taking him to meet with Felix of the CIA. The driver's killer leads Bond to Mr. Big, a gangster who runs a chain of restaurants throughout the United States. It's during his confrontation with Mr. Big that Bond first meets Solitaire, a beautiful tarot card expert who has an uncanny ability to see into the future. Bond follows Kananga back to San Monique, where he seduces Solitaire. It transpires that Kananga is producing massive amounts of heroin on the island and is protecting the poppy fields that he uses for the heroin cultivation through fear of voodoo and mystical powers. During the escapades, Bond eventually comes back to the U.S. and is taken to a crocodile farm to be eaten by crocodiles. But he escapes and outruns Kananga's henchmen in what seems like the longest motorboat chase I've ever seen. Not just on water, but on land too. Yeah, they actually drive the boats quite a bit on land. Bond eventually returns to the Caribbean island to rescue Solitaire from a voodoo sacrifice. And during this time, he also kills the evil Kananga with a compressed gas bullet that he forces down his throat. In the closing scene of the film, Bond ends up battling Kananga's surviving henchman with a prosthetic arm and throws him out the train window. All the bad guys have been dealt with, except for Baron Samedi, who is perched on the front of the speeding train in his voodoo outfit, laughing mysteriously. Sean Connery turned down what then was an astronomical sum of $5.5 million to play James Bond again in this movie, but he ended up giving Roger Moore his personal seal of approval for inheriting the role and actually called him the ideal Bond. Roger Moore was 45 when he made his debut as 007, making him the oldest actor to portray the iconic character. Now, the stunt coordinator for the whole movie is Ross Kananga, and he was the owner of the alligator and crocodile farm in which Bond escapes from the hungry crocs. He did this stunt himself, wearing Roger Moore's clothes, and an odd thing about it is he had on shoes that were made of crocodile skin. It was just a fun insert that they decided to put into the filming of the stunt. It took him 5 attempts to complete the stunt. On the 4th attempt, the crocodile snapped at one of his shoes as he went flying by. He got paid $60,000 for this stunt, which to me just sounds amazing, But when you think about a herd of 1,000 crocodiles being there ready to gobble you up, it sounds like a bargain in those terms. In an interview one time in 1973 after the movie was shown, he talked about how impossible the stunt was to do and that he fell down 5 times while he was doing it. The production company had to keep sending to London for more clothes. The crocs were chewing everything up when he hit the water, including the shoes. He actually received 193 stitches on his legs and face trying to get this scene shot. He was not the only person that got injured during the filming. Roger Moore suffered an injury during the boat chase. The engine ended up cutting out, and the momentum carried him into a boathouse. He cracked some of his front teeth and twisted his knee. He had to walk with a cane for several days afterwards, but was able to complete the scene because all he had to do was sit in the boat. And Roger Moore and Geoffrey Holder hated working with snakes, and there's a lot of snakes in this movie. Geoffrey Holder has to fall in a coffin full of them. He completely hated shooting that scene. Now, Madeline Smith, who played Miss Caruso, said that she had a terrible feeling of awkwardness during the bedroom scenes when she was with Roger Moore. And this was all due to his overprotective wife, who was on the set during most of the filming of this movie. This romantic mood was set to establish the effect of Bond unzipping Miss Caruso's blue dress with his magnetic watch. You see, the prop department attached a thin wire to the zipper, and a stagehand lay on the floor underneath Smith's body to pull down on the wire, while Bond pretended to unzip the dress with his watch. It's said that it took 29 takes to get this shot right. Paul McCartney's iconic theme song for the movie almost wasn't used. After he submitted the song to the producer, Harry Saltzman, he liked it, but he wanted it sung by somebody else, preferably a black female artist. McCartney told producers that he wouldn't sell the song for the film if he and his band were not allowed to perform it. You see, Harry Saltzman had passed on producing A Hard Day's Night, the Beatles film from 1964. And he didn't want to be a part of turning down Paul McCartney for a second time. Brenda Arnault sings her version of the song midway through, and Saltzman liked this much better than McCartney's. I don't see that at all. Now, the producers went out of their way and made a conscious decision to make Roger Moore's Bond significantly different from Sean Connery's. In this film, Bond never orders a vodka martini, but he does drink bourbon whiskey with no ice instead. The mission briefing occurs in his flat, not the office. And this is only the second time Bond's apartment is featured after an appearance in Dr. No from 1962. Bond doesn't wear a hat in this film, and he smokes cigars instead of cigarettes. This was a pretty monumental movie, kind of the passing of the baton for 007. And it was so important that Roger Moore wrote a production diary during its filming, which was simply titled Roger Moore as James Bond 007, Live and Let Die. It was published as a paperback and features a complete dossier of the filming from the first day to the last. There's quite a few color stills that were taken by Moore's then wife. The book was never reissued, and today is fairly rare to find. Now, Roger Moore states in his autobiography that at one time he played a prank on Jane Seymour. During lunch, she had a habit of asking people nearby to pass the ketchup, then the salt, and then another sauce repeatedly. One day, Moore and the rest of the crew got up and left when Seymour sat down. This caused the gorgeous actress to burst into tears, causing Moore to really regret the joke that he had pulled on her. Principal photography started in October of 1972 in Louisiana. Other filming sites were Jamaica, and the interior stuff was done at Pinewood Studios. They also did some location shooting in Harlem. where the producers were reportedly required to pay protection money to a local Harlem gang. And this was done to ensure the crew's safety. Once that money ran out, they were forced to leave, and some of the exterior shots were in fact shot on Manhattan's Upper East Side as the result of the difficulties they were having using real Harlem locations. The film was released in the U.S. in June of 1973, and with a budget of around $7 million, the film grossed $161 million. Take another look at this great Bond film. It's always an exciting ride. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.